Welcome back to Open Line, talking about Tennessee Season to Remember, which honors the victims and survivors of homicide. The ceremony is tomorrow night, Thursday night, downtown, 5:30. We'll put up all the information as the show goes on. Happy to have with us Tina Fox with the Tennessee Board of Parole, the Victim Services Director, and April Armstrong, whose brother was a victim of homicide. We've talked about the shock and the trial. So then 3 people are convicted.
Okay.
The first thing that happens after that is the parole hearing. How long before the first parole hearing, and what was going through your mind for that?
The one that got the least time is the one that the parole hearing, we had a parole hearing for. And that's the only one that we have been to a parole hearing for. But it was about, I want to say it was 2014. So it's been about 2 to 3 years ago.
Okay.
That the first parole hearing, and like I said, the only one that we've had.
And how long was that after he had been convicted?
It was like 4 years.
4 years?
Yeah, about 4 years. And Tina, she helped us, and guided us right through it, because like I said, we had no idea what to do. And thank you so much for that. Absolutely. My family and I.
Sure.
And they took us in a room and at a table somewhat like this, and he was on one side and we were on the other. You talk about hard to do.
You go into a prison, don't you? Doesn't it take place in a prison?
Well, he was still incarcerated at the Wilson County Jail at that time. This inmate was. So this took place at the Wilson County Jail.
Okay.
So we've not been to one, outside of the Wilson County Jail yet. But anyway, we're at a table just like this, and our family is on one side, and he and his mother were on the other. And not much space between you and him. And very, very, very tense. A lot of tension in the air. And when you see him, all those feelings just come, it's right, just right back up so strongly. And it's very hard to sit in there with him.
Right.
Very, very hard. Because, I'm just looking at him and I'm thinking, everything's going through my mind, all the thoughts, is going through my mind of what happened that night. And why? That's the biggest thing, is why. Because my brother was asleep, did not have anything to do with it. And I tell you, my brother was a very, very good man, very genuine, hardworking, honest, and he would give you anything he had, You didn't have to take anything from him. They robbed him, and it was just a pointless, senseless murder. For no reason. So, all those thoughts are going through your mind as to why did it have to happen? But we've not ever received any answers, and there's never going to be an answer good enough. There's never ever going to be an answer that's going to be satisfying.
And in this process, do you talk with him, or do you talk at all, or is it all just the person that's asking for parole? I mean, how does that work?
We do get to speak and say why or why not we think this person should or should not be, we as the victims, why he should not be released. And we do not talk to him, but we talk to whom asks us the questions, and we respond to them. We're not allowed to talk to him. And
what is your role? I mean, she's praised you for helping them through this. What is your role?
My role, again, is to navigate crime victims through this confusing parole process. And it is confusing, and it gets confusing for them. The parole process is a process that most persons never get a chance to experience. It is one of the last topics or components of the criminal justice system. And so, as you know, 90% or more of all criminal proceedings are plea bargains. And from there, they get an opportunity based on eligibility to have a parole hearing. And my division is responsible for registering crime victims like April and others so that they can be notified of parole hearings. We send out notifications 30 days prior to the actual parole hearing date. so that they can be informed, and if they want to be engaged in the process, they can call us so that we can make arrangements to be there with them during the parole hearing process. We offer video conferencing. The experience that she had was in a county jail, and we do not at this point offer video conferencing in county jails, but we have had video conferencing now for about 11 years, and that allows victims to be comfortable at the parole hearing process because they're not in the actual room with the offender.
So if you go to a prison where a lot of these hearings take place, it's going to be video conference.
Yes, we offer video conferencing for all 14 TDOC and core civic institutions across the state. Yes. So.
And what is the biggest challenge you think for a lot of the people? I mean, you deal with so many victims. What are their biggest questions, and some of the things that they're asking you the most?
Yeah, the main question I get is, why is he eligible for parole so soon? He was sentenced to 10 years, and I get this parole notification that he's already eligible for parole. Why is he eligible for parole so soon? And so we know, those who work in this field know that in Tennessee there is no truth in Tennessee sentencing, so to speak. And so 10 years doesn't mean 10 years day for day. And so if they are sentenced at range 1, a standard offender at 30%, that simply implies that he's going to be eligible within 3 years. And so that's the question that I get. That's the shocker that I have to deal with every day. There's not a day that doesn't go by that a victim does not call and ask, why is he eligible for parole so soon? I was in court, the judge said 10 years, and now I get this notification saying he's eligible for parole.
So how many people actually get parole after 3 years? I mean, what is the all right, in your case, what happened? Did he not get parole?
He did not.
He did not get parole.
We go up for parole in 2019.
In 2019.
Again, for the same perpetrator.
So the same person in 2019. How often is parole granted?
I'm not sure how often it's granted. I do know that we hear about 1,500 cases every month, and every one of those cases has a victim. And so it's my responsibility to provide the information to them so that they can be well informed, with hopes of making an informed decision if they want to participate in the process or not.
1,500 cases a month.
1,500 cases a month. And every crime has a victim. That's one of the things that most people don't recognize, that every crime has a victim. And so with those 1,500 cases, there is at least one victim in that case, and not including the ripple effect that those crimes have on so many different people.
Now, is that murder? Those aren't all murder.
It's not all murder. It's just all different types of crime.
And I think you were saying at one point you help all victims, and it's obvious the victims of the person killed, the family there is devastated, but there are other victims in this whole scenario too that people often maybe don't think about.
Right, and that's the offenders' family members who are victims and who are victimized in this process as well. It's the ripple effect that it has on them. They're not necessarily the primary victims. They may be the secondary victims, but they are victimized, the offender's family. And so we encourage all victims to be engaged, whether they are in support of the offender's release and or if they are in opposition of the offender's release. We believe that a victim is a victim.
And so, all right, so you've been through this. And again, my goal is to help others out there. What would you say to others who are having to go through this? Apparently 1,500 people a month are having to go through this. You know, what advice do you have on this part of it? The whole going back in, seeing the person that committed this crime to your brother, your loved one. How do people deal with that? What do you recommend?
How to deal with that? You have to have just inner strength. I tell you, you have to, because and you have to, family. You know, your family gives you a lot of strength and helping you deal with it, because it's just it's just such a tragedy that, you know, it's just so hard, I think, to really precisely say exactly how to deal with it, because I think probably each person and each family deals with it in their own way of kind of healing, you know, process. And I don't know, it's just support, have a support group, Susan to remember, you know, and definitely your family members, and just have faith.
Okay. And
Have
having
faith.
information, we believe, is key, so that, again, victims can be able to make an informed decision. They are displaced, but once they get information, they're able to compartmentalize what their plans are in the parole process. So information definitely is the key.
How often do victims' families not come to a parole hearing?
All the time, but we also have victims who come all the time as well. So, it's just a matter of just getting the information, and that's what we want victims to do, to have the information, to get registered with us, to receive parole action notifications on offenders so that they can make that decision whether or not they plan to be in opposition or not. Or
Do you
send in a
think-
letter of opposition or a victim impact statement.
Right. Do you think you would ever not go?
No, I'll always go.
And why is that important to you?
Because I want the parole board to know that my brother was loved, and he had so much family that loved him and missed him, and want them to know that me and we as a family, I don't think any of them should ever be released. That's me, I don't think any of them. But that lets them know that you support and that you love and that you're trying to do what you think is right. And we are my brother's voice. So he has, we are here to support and speak for him. So we are his voice. So in order to be his voice, we need to do the things that come along with that, which is going to paroles, season to remember, anything that involves it, so they know that we care, and he was someone and is someone to us and will always be, and he will never be forgotten. And that way, I feel like the more people that come and help with the parole hearings, and family, friends, it doesn't have to be family, friends, that helps with the parole board to know that, that, because sometimes they say that, like she said, people do not come. Mm-hmm. And that people have their own reasons for not coming, but for me, I think it just, for the parole board too, it lets them know that we're here and we're not going anywhere, and we speak for my brother, we're here for my brother. We're his
As somebody
voice.
who's so been through that, and that's beautiful what you said, what could be changed in the system to make it better? You've been through it. Is there something that you would like to see changed, or what do you think?
I think the length of time that it takes to convict someone, I just don't, I never understood, and I know 2.5 years to me is a long time for a conviction and a trial, to even get to trial. I would think that I don't know, but that would be someplace that could, something that could be worked on. I don't know, but that was just such a long wait. It was, I don't know, the wait was just long, and not knowing what was going to happen, and knowing
Why did it take so long? Is that, I know they take a long time, but there's a right to a speedy trial and all of that.
Right.
You hear that. Why did it take 2.5 years?
I honestly don't know. They were gathering information, and at one time, one of them said they were going to plea, and then they changed their mind and said they wasn't, and then they would have a hearing, and then it would get pushed back. They would, or the hearing, the date would come up, and then it would get pushed back. So it was pushed back numerous times.
Right.
And for those reasons, I don't know. I just know it was a long time.
Yeah. And as someone on the inside, you hear from a lot of families, what I guess do you hear a lot of people say they wish that could change in the system?
The sentencing guidelines is what I hear most. And I don't work with sentencing management at all, obviously, but that's a concern that I hear almost every day as well, if they could change the sentencing guidelines.
Meaning that the sentencing doesn't fit the crime. Is that
Right. What I surmise is that if they mean that if an offender has been sentenced to 10 years, they should serve 10
years, yes.
I think
Right.
that's what I surmise that they are implying.
And that's
Where
very key, yes.
are we with violent crime in our state? And I guess you're as good a person to ask as any. What are you seeing? You've done this for a while too.
I have.
You've done this for a while. Where do you think we are Are we getting better? Is it getting worse? Do you have a sense of that? You know, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't have a sense of it. I do know that we try to provide every crime victim the information that they need. In terms of violent crime, I think that you can look across America and realize that there is a plethora of violence going on in this country, not just in Tennessee. So.
And where do you think we are? What have you seen?
The violence, well, I see an increase in it tremendously. And I don't know if it's so much that I've just taken more notice to it, you know, since this has happened, or if it is truly an increase. But it seems to me, you know, that it's a little bit of both, that I have taken more notice to it, and that turn on the news every day and it's someone else has been murdered, you know, it seems like. Or even, you know, triple murders, or, you know, it's just, I don't know, it seems very multiplying.
Your experience makes you even more sensitive.
Correct. Yes, it does.
To seeing that.
Oh, yes, it does.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back and we'll really delve into, in our final long segment, a season to remember. What's going to happen, why it's so important. Take a break. Be back right after this.